So let's start. Anyway, welcome to everybody and welcome to Sandy. So this is Sandy's bio. Sandy Weiner, the founder of lastfirstdate.com and thewomanofvalue.com, is an internationally known TEDx speaker, women's empowerment coach, dating and relationship coach, author, podcast host, and retreat leader. I love how she just doesn't fit in with Covey and all the overachievers at Covey. It's too bad. Sandy specializes in helping women achieve great things by overcoming fears, finding their authentic voice, and being valued for their full potential. She believes a woman of value is respected and rewarded for her contribution in life, work, and love. So here's Sandy. So Sandy, I'm going to let you take it away. If you want, I can watch the chat box for you if you want me to.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Since we're small, do you mind if people ask questions along the way as we go?
Not at all.
Oh, good. All right. So guys, because we're small enough, just feel free to, unmic and ask your questions, or you can put them in chat and I will ask them for you.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm going to share my screen and pull up my slides. All right. Just make sure that I don't end up advancing slides before they're ready. Welcome. This is a webinar on 3 ways to attract and date a high quality man. And this is a constant complaint. Where are all the good men? So I invite you to give this webinar your full attention, shut down distractions. This is for you. And we are going to be taking questions. And I'm going to be asking you some questions. So feel free to post in the chat or unmute at any time. And here's what we're going to be covering today. Whoops. Okay, let me stop this and start again. This is what happens. I can't go back and it starts to advance. So here we go. Start from the beginning.
Zoom needs to update, don't you think? I feel like they've had an incredible year and they should spend a little money towards, because there's still some quirks in it.
Yeah.
They're too busy counting their money.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Oh my God, Zoom just blew out of the water. I should have had stock, but so here's what we're going to be covering today. Why your type is keeping you single, how to be more memorable on a first date, and how to not attract men who want a nurse, a purse, or a mommy. And first, I'm going to talk a little bit about me. So Lesley already had a wonderful intro about me. So I am the founder of Last First Date and the Woman of Value. Last First Date is a dating coaching, relationship coaching company. I've been a relationship and dating coach for women over 40 for about 13 years now. And I work privately and in groups, and I teach courses and retreats when we can all meet in person. I also help women attract in toe curling love by overcoming their fears, speaking up with confidence, and breaking toxic patterns. We often have patterns that we can't see. And I know that when I got divorced 13 years ago, when I started this career, it was really because I realized I had so much work to do. And I think that no matter how bad a relationship is, we play a part. I stayed 23 years in a marriage with somebody who I shouldn't have stayed with, but it was because of who I was at the time. So this is that little thing in the back is my podcast. I have about 460 episodes recorded. We've been doing this for almost 9 years now. So I have no idea how I keep doing it, but it's great stuff. You can find out about pretty much anything. Today I recorded an episode with a couple who does couples work, and we talked about pornography in relationships. So that was a topic we never covered before. And I just love meeting amazing people through the work I do. And that's a copy of my book cover, Becoming a Woman of Value, How to Thrive in Life and Love. And I published that during the pandemic. So yeah, because we got nothing else to do,
Right.
publishing books.
Andy,
Uh,
what's in the podcast? Who do you interview generally? Is it, who are you interviewing? Guys or dating people or experts?
so it's a bunch of different types of interviews. I interview experts in the field of anything that has to do with relationships. It started as a podcast for people over 40, but it's really become just a general podcast to help you have healthier relationships. So whether you're single or in a couple,
Uh-huh.
people tune in to listen to people talk about better communication skills. And then, there's dating skills. There's also live coaching. So I coach people live on air. So you can hear me talk people through certain issues that they have, like a single mom.
Oh,
How do
wow.
you date as a single parent?
Right, right,
All those things. So
right.
yeah, lots
Okay.
and lots of different topics.
Okay.
All right. So let's get to the first topic. Why is your type keeping you single? Well, if our type was right for us, we'd probably be with them right now, right? So let me explain. You think about your type, the men that you've been attracted to, and usually we're drawn to men because of first their looks, height, big one, 6 feet is like the gold standard. And we look at whether they're in good shape, the color of their hair, what kind of skin they have. These are all qualities that you're either born with or not. Like you really can't control height or hair. Um, then we have attractions of personality. And many women say they want like a bold, take charge kind of guy, somebody with confidence, somebody with a high degree of education, somebody who's well traveled. And they ended up with controlling, self-centered men who did not prioritize them or the relationship. So let me know if this has happened to you, whether you're attracted to these types of guys. And I would love to hear, even if you just post in the chat, what your type is. And we can unmute for that too. I would love to know, if you have a type.
So I'm going to jump in.
Okay. Hi.
Um, so I've gone into, I'll do it this way, just I'm going to be spontaneous. I've gone into my own heart and I've said, okay, what would put a smile on my face and just, really be true to me. And I've been married and I've compromised. So I know what that looks like. And so now it's having done my inner work, I feel like I am now wanting to be with someone who inspires me. I feel like I did all the inspiring in the past. And I was like, come on, let's travel. Come on, let's learn about finances. Let's, the teach. And it's like, okay, I really want someone who is yes, bold and has done their inner work. So let me start there. So yes, there's the outer accoutrements that I feel are wonderful. Yes, I mean, I believe they have to be attractive to me because I think chemistry is important. And I've tried the other way, not having chemistry important and that looks important, and that didn't work either. But I'll leave it there. I don't want to be long-winded. I want to give other people a chance. So, having done the inner work, and I'll just say, yes, truth and honesty and similar values of making a difference in the world and being an adventurous, because I love, as Lesley knows, leaping into the unknown.
Beautiful.
Okay, Andy. So can you send him to me now?
I got him in the back room here.
Thank you.
But what I love about what you shared is that you did the inner work. And people who don't do the inner work continually are attracted to the same type of person over and over and over again. We marry the same type of person more than once. My mom and my dad did not get along, and then she remarried and had the same exact issues. And so our type is often this ideal, this fairy tale. And there's some comments here. We have smart, funny, generally very independent from Lesley. Holly says funny, smart, intellectually curious, nice, positive energy, inspiring. So true. Yeah, I love that word too. And Carol says someone's done the work on themselves, is kind, smart, funny, and loves to have fun and travel. Inspiring is a great idea. Yeah, inspirational is important, and often we're not inspired and we actually get resentful, and that's no fun. So, the relationships that work are ones where there's no fairy tale involved, right? There's a common theme of I wasn't attracted at first, like not this complete chemistry. So there's a big difference between a 5 chemistry at the beginning where you can imagine kissing him one day versus, oh my God, I'm repulsed, I can't. So somebody whose acts of kindness or continuous showing up, inspiring, helping bring out the best side of you, helps you fall in love with him. Or he wasn't my type, like a PhD or a white collar kind of person, but we're perfect for each other. And that's really what happens in real life. And so this is an invitation to stop focusing on your type and open up your heart and mind. If you're not already, it looks like most of you are, but to men who are, and I just lost that slide. So men who are kind, who bring out the best in you, who make you laugh and are inspiring in some way. So you hit on all of those things. And to focus less on the butterflies, like when we're young, we're just so drawn in by butterflies, and that's not who we are anymore. We want something that's going to last. There's this book called How to Not Die Alone by Logan Ury. Any of you hear of it? It's a new book. I've had her on the podcast. So she actually, I don't think her episode aired yet, but she's fantastic. And I'm going to be sharing some other parts of her book with you. But she talks about the difference between looking for a prom date and looking for a partner. Most of us look for a prom date. We look for that shiny object, the person who looks good, who's fun, makes us excited, but we may even sleep with them after the prom, right? But it doesn't last. And the partner has other qualities like the kindness brings out the best in you, makes you laugh, and they're inspiring in some way. How do we feel in their presence? Are we relaxed or tense? Do we feel seen and heard? Do we feel attractive in their presence? And our type is actually hardwired from our childhood experiences, from our relationship with our father. And it's probably the worst match for you. So date men you would never consider. I have my clients dating men who are different race, different religion, different mixed color. The guy with the tattoos that you would never date on the website could be the nicest person in the world and be inspirational. The person without a high degree of education could be brilliant. And we often miss those men because we're looking for that narrow vision of a type. I had a guy once paint my house many years ago. His wife was a PhD professor and he was a house painter, and they had a great relationship. So we have mixed collar, mixed politics, mixed many things, even though you think it's not going to work. So we're going to talk about how to be more memorable on first dates, because the way to find that guy is to go on more dates. So here we go with
Andy,
what?
can I interrupt and ask
Yeah.
a question? Do you think that the mixed collar thing is a result of, I mean, we're really the second generation of women to go into the workforce, right? Whereas, so you had the old thing of, he works, he makes money, he's the big guy and you're the supporting staff. We changed that, but we never changed the idea of, oh, okay, now the other part has to change, which is we can't both be successful, attractive. I mean, yeah, there are some people like that, but why can't it tilt the other way or tilt this way now that women are more equal? Not completely equal, but
Yeah,
is that the lag?
I think that's an excellent question. We have changed a lot, and we're still dating like it's 1920 and
Right.
in many ways. And I encourage women to make first moves, not to, chase down a man and pursue, but to let men know we're interested by sending first messages, by dating outside of your box by doing things that you wouldn't normally do, and to own your value. It's like, but if two people are exactly the same, it's not going to be attraction. So that's why a lot of times when you're interested in that CEO or the guy in the C-suite, and you're in the C-suite, you're both competing, you're not really gelling. And so you want to find somebody where it's like a puzzle and you fit in with each other. Does that make sense?
Mhm. But we have to change, we have to re-level. I guess everybody has to re-level
Hmm.
what that idea is of what a match is, right? 'Cause
Yes,
we change.
recalibrate, right.
Recalibrate, yeah.
Yeah, and so I interviewed a guy named John Berger who wrote a book called Make the First Move, and it was all about women taking charge. I've done videos on this. I think that we have to really see dating very differently. I see people getting so stuck in old ways and then wonder why they keep having the same results. So I'm all about change your results and change your actions, change your results.
Mhm.
So being memorable on a first date is really
Can,
important.
if I can just
Yeah,
quickly, I mean, that's why Bumble has it that women make the first move. I mean,
exactly.
to everybody. I tried it. I was terrible at it, but, but I like this better. I want to speak to Lesley most of the days, but, but yeah. So anyway, I just wanted to mention, so what you're saying for women to take the first move, it's exactly why Bumble has been as successful, I think, as it has been.
Yeah, and Bumble was created by a woman. So it makes perfect sense. And yeah, I love that. I love that women take charge, but they don't, or they're not overbearing. And I think people have trouble finding that happy place, where you can still be a woman, because we forget that we're women. We're just always doing and being and accomplishing. And what I used to do on dates was share all my accomplishments or share all my war stories or, oh my God, I'm so busy. I do so many things. And guys would just be like, I don't think she has time for me. I don't think she can time slot me into her busy schedule. And I would wonder why they wouldn't call. I finally asked, like, I thought we hit it off. Oh, yeah, but you're so busy. So we may be busy, but we have to let men know if we do prioritize relationships, we got to be verbal about it. So let's talk about those first dates. I'm going to give you a really kind of short, truncated thing about first dates, but to be memorable, you want to first make a great first impression. And the way to do that is first through your greeting. Now, during COVID, a lot of people stopped dating in person. We're getting back out there. So some people are comfortable with a hello kiss. Some people are comfortable with a hug. I think people will be kissing less these days, but I think hugging is coming back and less handshaking. So what I used to say is greet somebody, like if you would greet a colleague, you would shake their hand. But if you greet a potential partner and you don't want to do the kiss or the hug, you can shake their hand and then put your hand on top of their hand. It's a way to create warmth and connection. I think today people are doing more hugging or not touching. And again, like during the COVID stuff, you've got to come up with your own boundaries around what you're comfortable with and be sure to communicate that before you even meet. And then there's eye contact, really making sure you're looking at that person. Your body language says so much about you. So even when you're sitting, keeping your body open instead of crossed and closed and tight-fisted, smiling, warmth, openness, and all of those things really help. And then you want to manage the conversation. So the first thing you want to do is if you're sitting at a table and there's like salt and pepper shakers and things between you, you actually remove those obstacles to create more connection. It's just like kind of a tip to be connected and ask open-ended questions. One of my free gifts that I'm giving you at the end is a list of 10 questions that are great for first dates because they help you really get to know the values of a person. After each question, I actually write down what you're going to learn about that person. We often ask questions that are yes or no, or we ask too probing a question where we want to know everything, like, tell me about all your failures. Why'd your marriage not work? And it's just like, too much. So we want to have fun, but we also want to learn about him and have him learn about us. And so we don't want to overshare. And at the end of the date, we want to end with clarity. So ending the date with clarity means, I had a great time. I'd love to do this again sometime. What we usually do is, hey, I had fun. Thank you so much. But he has no idea if you just say that to every man to be polite. So be intentional and let him know, I had a great time. I'd love to do this again sometime. And if you didn't have a great time, do not say that. All right. Any questions before I move on to the next section? No.
What's your best advice of what to say at the end of a date when you didn't have a good time?
Thank you so much. It was nice to meet you. And graciously. I think every date is an opportunity to learn about men, learn about yourself, practice skills. And I think leaving somebody better than you found them is a goal. I just think that there is no wasted date. And so thanking them, most dates don't work out. The no is going to be common. And so not to be afraid to text that if he asks you out again.
Holly,
Yeah,
sorry.
Holly.
Holly's asking, any modifications for first dates for video chats?
First dates on video chats, I think, plan them and make them fun. You don't want to just stare at each other. So again, do a lot of these things. You want to prepare the conversation, prepare your stories. That's another thing I help women with, is how do we tell our stories? Like, we have had a whole life. Some people are retired, they don't know how to talk about that. Or if you're divorced, how much do you share? Or widowed, or you had an abusive relationship, what do you say to somebody? And so being able to share very little, but just enough to not ignore their question and not be the deer in the headlights. Also, answers to questions that seem ridiculous, like, how's online dating going for you? How long have you been single? Like, why did you never get married? There are questions that get asked all the time. It's just people are trying to make conversation. So instead of getting contemptful, prepare your answers. Kind, funny, short, turn it around, ask them a question. I like to play games online.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
How do you answer, how come you've never been married?
So tell me quick, are you never married?
Yeah.
Okay. So tell me real quickly in one sentence or two, why you're never married.
I never met the right person.
Okay.
I've been engaged. I've been in, long-term relationships that I thought were going to go there. Didn't work out.
Okay. That's perfect. So I have been in long-term relationships, right? I've been in serious relationships. I've never met the right person, but I'm really looking forward to meeting that person. That's it. It's what you did, who you are, what you're looking forward to. And that's all they need to know. The fact that you've been in serious relationships is usually enough for most people, because they want to know that you can sustain something over a month, And that's where, like, when I've met people who never married, that's what I want to know. Can you be in a relationship? That's all they just want to stay safe. And it's not their business really any deeper than that at this point.
Yeah, because I have met a couple people who think there's something wrong with me. One guy in particular, on a match date, and then I bumped into him again at a bar in a totally different city randomly. And we didn't remember each other at first, and then we started talking, and then all of a sudden he said, "You've never been married, or have you?" And he remembered me. And he was like, "Okay, goodbye."
Which is rude. and
Rude.
judgmental.
Yeah.
And so you want men to be open to who you are. And if they shut you out, you could get curious with them. Why are you writing me off? What are you afraid of? Put it back on them.
I like you. Because that I would be afraid to say that because I would worry that's too like confrontational.
Well, he's just rejected you for something that's
True.
ridiculous. I mean, he doesn't even know you. He's been pretty
Yeah.
confrontational. I would not be afraid of putting it right back. I think people need to learn that there's another human being on the other side. And we need to advocate for what we want. Like when I got divorced, people would say, I'm so sorry that you're divorced. And I would say, you know what? I'm really okay. And can I tell you what would be a better thing to ask me or to say to me? And they'd go, yeah. And I'd say, just ask me how I'm doing instead of telling me how I'm feeling.
Right.
You know, that works better for me. And so when people, and this woman actually came back to me years later and said, thank you so much for sharing that, because that's what I've been doing now. And people appreciate it. You know, it's like just checking in instead of writing people off.
Yeah, I was going to say something too. I actually dated, or actually was speaking to someone over COVID, over Zoom. And when he found out I was never married, he was just so shocked and like so put off. He's like, well, obviously there's something wrong with you. And he said it right out, like he was saying what he thought rather than filtering himself. And it was like, and it just came out. And I go, really? I go, so you're divorced. I said, so I'd be more accepted if I got married and divorced. Do you want me to be judge of you that you got divorced? So I think it actually takes more strength to never be married, not marry the wrong person, and actually stay single and wait for the right person. And he was like totally taken back. And then he was like totally into me and wouldn't stop texting me. I go, I'm all set. I don't need, because I knew what type of guy he was. And I wasn't attracted to him anymore, but he was super attracted to me because I put him back in his place. And he really realized like, wow, he did have a judgment about somebody who's never been married and he didn't even understand the other side of it.
Yeah, well, Carol, good for you for doing that. But that's exactly what I'm talking about. Like, don't be afraid to say what's true for you. This guy had no filter, you know,
Right.
So I think, you know, people need to get some filters.
I often joke that because one of my ex-boyfriends, I could have gotten him to marry me if I'd wanted to marry him because he was so in love with me. And I often joke I should have done it because the divorce would have been good because he was wealthy. But I'd still be, I was very clear that I'd still be divorced. Like I was very clear in that relationship that it wasn't gonna, you know, it just wasn't gonna work.
You know what? We have to own who we are. And I mean that on every level. We have to own our age, our size, our looks, our history. If we come from craziness, like my ex-husband used to say, you're the crazy one because your parents are crazy. Well, his parents were equally nuts. He just didn't see it. And to accuse somebody of always being the problem is a problem. Now I see it. I wouldn't spend 5 minutes with a guy who would ever say something like that to me, but I had to learn. And so all of our experiences help us become who we are.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Sandy. I'm sorry, everybody. I have to jump to a meeting, but I'll watch the recording. Thank you.
Okay. All right. You're
Hi,
welcome.
Bridget.
Bye.
I was,
Yeah, I wanted to ask a question.
Yeah.
When it comes to children, how is it with how you put the question out there, how they, if they're still raising their children, I should say, or even if they have children that have left the house and have their own lives, how do you address the question of how they prioritize their time with their children to the point where you do not feel important in their lives? I faced that with my ex-husband and led to the demise of the marriage, and I never want to go through that again. So is there a way to put forth a question or have some conversation so you get a sense of how important his kids are, or that he sees validation in having a woman by his side?
It's a good question. I think what you want to know is, are you prioritizing a relationship with a woman? I would keep it in that realm. And what is your relationship with your children like? I think you will find out very quickly if people have boundaries or not. And I have 3 kids. 2 of them live in my house, a 30-year-old and a 26-year-old. Some men are freaked out by that. But I talk it out. I let them know I prioritize relationships in my life. And yes, my kids are important to me too. And I think that, it's definitely something we have to negotiate when people are raising kids. A lot of people have terrible boundaries, don't know how to prioritize the woman in their life. And I have a client who walked out on a guy because he could not set limits with his daughter. He just kept ending a date, like in the middle, when his daughter would call and say, Daddy, can you come home and bring me food? I mean, she could have called Uber Eats. Like, she was 18, I think, she drove, she could have taken care of herself. He felt guilty because his ex-wife was an alcoholic. So it's you want to see how they navigate that stuff. And if there's an issue, you talk it out and you tell them how you feel. I really want to spend time with you. I really care about you. And I also I don't feel cared for when you leave me and prioritize your kids over me all the time. Is there a way we can talk about this and create more balance?
And by what date would you, because really important, I wouldn't bring that up. You comfortably agree in the first couple of dates, but at what point? So listen, you get to a point in your life where you don't want to waste your time.
Mm-hmm.
So at what point would you say bring up, because as I said, personally, I wouldn't bring those kind of conversations up in the first few dates, but by what date do you think would be a comfortable time to have this conversation? Say the third, fourth, fifth, or or after a month of dating? What do you think?
I think you're not in a relationship yet and you don't know if you want to be and I would say after 6 dates, you probably would know. Who knows? I mean, there's no hard and fast rule about anything. I'm not a rules person, but I think that if you feel that it's getting serious and you really like him, you're going to want to know what his relationship is like. And you'll probably hear it in the conversations. He's going to talk about his kids. He's going to say, or he's going to pick up their calls during the date. I mean, that's a surefire sign. And, but you can say, when the first time it happens, you can bring it up and say, wow, I don't answer the phone when I'm on dates. Can you put your phone away? I've talked to guys about that and they say, oh, I'll only pick it up if my children call. And I'm like, how old are your kids? Oh, they're 30. I'm like, there is no reason why you need to pick that call up. And if you can't tell the difference between, being present for a date and being present for your children who are not there and don't need you, then that's probably not going to work for me.
Yeah. Okay, that's great. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. All right, let's talk about how to not attract a man who wants a nurse, a purse, or a mommy. This is a big complaint I hear from women dating in midlife. Men are just looking for somebody to take care of them, a nurse or a purse, somebody to support them, or a mommy, somebody who's going to be their caretaker. And so I'm going to share some tips about how not to attract those guys. The nurse or the purse. And if you're dating, you'll probably meet a lot of guys who have let themselves go. Men over 50 often, especially if they've been alone for a while, they're not eating well, they don't exercise. I mean, some of the opposite, they're constantly in the gym, they live in the gym. Some are suffering from ailments and they'll tell you about it on a first phone call. I've had men go, hi, I have diabetes and I have kidney stone. I'm like, okay, that's really not cool. Because what happens is, it's okay if they have diabetes, if they tell you when you get to know them and when you like them. But if you're laying out all your ailments right away, it's like you're identifying with those ailments instead of who you are. It's not who you are. It's something that you're dealing with, hopefully. So, and then there are men whose finances were either wiped out in a divorce, or even during COVID, a lot of people lost jobs. So it depends on what you're doing with it. If they come across as a victim and they carry resentment towards their ex for taking all their money. I mean, my ex-husband has this party line. Women, the reason he doesn't want to get remarried is because he told my kids, women marry you and then they take all your money and leave you. And I'm like, oh, is that how you summarized our entire 23 years together? So you don't want to date the guy who's blaming and shaming and says, I lost all my money. But there are guys who say, I'm rebuilding my wealth. I took on a new job and I'm really excited about where I am financially. So we do want to be there for people when they get sick, but if they're not leading with that. Like if you fall in love with somebody and they get sick, of course you're going to be there for them. And right, so we want men who are looking for an equal partner, somebody who's going to be there for them. So my recommendation is to see each man as a clean slate. Like we know nothing about them. So even if you've had past experiences where you've had the men who were the nurse and the purse and all those things and the mommy, just get to know who he is. Just like you don't want to be judged. You know, we talked about judging just now about you never married, there must be something wrong with you. We need to stop judging too. So we want to look for people who have our must-haves and none of our deal breakers. And this is something that's hard to really find because a lot of people don't know what their must-haves and deal breakers are. We talked a little bit about that at the beginning of this webinar. It's something it's one of the first things I do with a client is to really hone it down into the things that you can't live with and you can't live without, the things that have ended relationships, you know. And so you want somebody who doesn't complain about his health or his financial situation. And if he does, again, set some boundaries right away and let him know, like, that you're interested in learning about what you have in common and you want to focus on the positives right now. So this is the same thing I would say if a man is just talking on a date nonstop and doesn't ask you questions. This happens a lot. Let me know in the chat area if it's ever happened to you. There are people who get in front of a woman and all of a sudden it's like they're talking to a therapist. You know, it's like, I just want to tell you everything. And it's not necessarily true that they are narcissistic, which is what a lot of women think. They could also just be looking for company and they feel comfortable in your presence. And so again, it's our responsibility to interrupt and to just gently say, hey, you know, you've been talking for a while. Is there anything you want to know about me? And you want to see if he's open, right? So the growth mindset, where you're open to learning, you're open to hearing, you're open to being wrong, and you know, and not shut down. Like if you get interrupted, now you're going to blow up. That's an important thing to learn about somebody. So the way to not attract the nurse, the purse, and the mommy, the people who want the mommy, is to show up differently with them and to find out if it's really true that they're victims of all these things and that they really want to rely on you and don't have a life of their own. Or maybe they're just showing up that way at the beginning. And as you ask questions, you find out that that's not really true about them. And one of the ways to really know how you feel on each date is to check in with yourself. And this is back to Logan Ury, who wrote the book, How to Not Die Alone. She calls these the post-date 8, and I think they're fantastic. So asking yourself these 8 questions really helps you to see if it's a match, if you want to keep going. What side of me did he bring out? I mean, we generally don't even think about that, but did he bring out your funny side or your smart side? Did he bring out your uptight side? How did my body feel? Right? We don't even think about our bodies, but your body tells the truth. So how did your body feel? Do I feel more energized or drained than I did before the date? I mean, That to me is how I go through my whole life. Does it feed me? Does it drain me? Do I want to eat this? Is it going to make me feel happy or sad? Is there something about him I'm curious to know? Like some people, they're just so boring to you. You have absolutely no interest in knowing more. And then there are other people where you're like, wow, I want to know more. Did he make me laugh? I mean, we talked about that before, the importance of laughter. You see these older couples who have been together for decades and they're still laughing together because that is such an important piece. Did I feel heard? That is also, like, for me, I know most of my life I walked around feeling unheard and unseen. And so to be heard is really crucial. Do you feel attractive in his presence? And so you're going to know if he finds you attractive. Do you feel like you look good? You feel good? And the last one is, did I feel captivated, bored, or something in between? So if you're something in between, you can give it another chance. If you're really bored, just don't continue. Lesley says, my husband of 33 years has saved his butt many times with killer humor. It's true. It is so true. It's like it helps to really overcome a lot of stuff when you can laugh together.
Is there a strong hello again.
Hi.
Hi. I just love this. This is great. Can you come on every month? Because we all are in the dating game again. I mean, the ones that are divorced but wanted to know, very important is it a strong indicator if your guy gets along with your friends and family members?
It helps a lot. And the opposite is also true. A lot of times your family will tell you, oh my God, I can't believe you're dating this guy. He's terrible for you. And you don't listen. I see this so many times, but yeah, it's definitely helpful. So I encourage you to have an open mind, give potential partners a chance, and you might rediscover the fun of dating and finally find that high value partner that you're seeking. And in order to make your date more interesting and fun, if you're tired of having boring conversations, I have a free gift for you. And it is 10 first date questions to spark great conversations that I told you about before. And it will really help you to not run out of interesting things to talk about. I truly believe that we should prepare for dating as we do for a job interview. The more prepared you are with good questions, with good answers, with your stories prepared, with being memorable, all of those things are so crucial to finding the love you're seeking. And so that is at lastfirstdate.com/questions. And because I love giving things away, I'm also offering you another free gift to the first 10 women who sign up. It's a half-hour breakthrough session. And in that session, we will talk about whatever issues you're struggling with in dating or relationships. And if I can see areas of growth and opportunity, I will share them with you. So that's lastfirstdate.com/breakthrough. And thank you for posting those, Marissa. And so I'm going to stop sharing. And
I have a question
Yeah.
for you that may be irrelevant. I've been married for so long. Where do you put chemistry when you walk in and sit down with the guy? I mean, that was everything when we were in our 20s and 30s. Does it matter now or not?
It matters, but if it's through the roof, it's usually going to be a problem. And because your chemistry, like when you have lust, you don't think straight and you often overlook the important things. And so that's the prom date versus the lifetime partner. There's a big difference in how you approach it. So it's easy to have chemistry, to have sex, but the person who you're attracted to and you find them intriguing and interesting and fun to be with, those are the people with whom chemistry is going to keep building. I got one with amazing.
I got one with amazing chemistry, no muffler in his car. Okay, you can fix the muffler.
If he doesn't have a muffler in his mouth, then that would be
right.
more of an issue.
That's hilarious. Any
Um,
other questions? Because we have
yeah.
a little bit more time, guys.
I am here
Use
to
use
answer.
Sandy now. Use her for your coaching. Who
Use
wants
me.
coaching? We got her for a few more minutes.
You got me.
Well, I will just also say, Sandy, that I almost, having watched and myself and others go through the honeymoon period, you know, I'm always curious about the times where we don't agree, right? And how we'll navigate those. You know, I
Yeah.
don't see them as bad things. I really think that's the real things. And right, it's like, who are you when it's I'll just say out of honeymoon,
Yeah.
right? Out of the honeymoon environment.
Yeah.
So
It's an important question, because we often leave after the honeymoon's over because we want it to be a fairy tale, and real life happens. And so I spend a lot of time teaching communication skills, boundaries. I have a whole course on boundaries. I have many courses on communication skills, because we don't learn these things growing up. And so how do we navigate conflict? Most of us go into fight, flight, freeze. And it's important for us to know, first of all, how to get back to center so we're not attacking and defensive. And we have to learn how to connect and how to be vulnerable. So a big part of it is get yourself centered, and then say what's true about your intention first. Like, I want to have this conversation with you so we can get closer. That immediately puts somebody at ease, instead of, let me tell you what you did wrong. So I care about you. I want our relationship to get better. And, you know, and there are many, many ways to do this. I had somebody on my show who created a card deck called Relationship Check-ins. And it's a way to have these conversations as a game, where you can hold up the number of fingers that indicate how happy you are with your sex life. Like, both people close their eyes, hold up their fingers, and then you talk about it. Oh, why is yours only a 4? Mine's a 5. What would make it a 5? But you're open, right? So having these tough conversations where people really shut down, it's such an art. And most of us just go back to a little wounded part of ourself that is feeling so much fear, and we come across as passive aggressive. And I'm working on a quiz for my website that tells you what communication style you have, the archetype that you have, so that you can learn yourself and then learn your partner, because we're not going to be the same. And so how do you deal with it? If you're an assertive person and they're passive aggressive, what do you do?
thank you. I'll just say one last thing. I
Yeah.
was just reading this morning how every good story has, you have, right? Every good hero has a journey that you have to, sorry for the sirens, have to go down in order to, right, grow up. You know, I mean,
Yes.
throughout history. So I just find it amazing, you know, to watch others with such resistance to go through a misunderstanding or a difference, you know, that we have. And it's like, no, you know, I'm more like saying, you know, let's explore it, you know, what it is. And I come up against a lot of resistance as that's too much.
Right. It's fear. People are afraid of conflict because they see it as violent. They remember maybe from their home, people were screaming, or anytime you have conflict, it means a relationship's over. And, you know, I'm going to be attacked, which brings you back to a primal part of your brain, which says, I'm going to die in, you know, the hunters are going to get me, the animal's going to kill me. Like, it's just, we can't even control those primal things that happen to us, but we can learn better skills. And so somebody has to be open and willing, and, you know, deal with your triggers, deal with the things that make you, you know, defensive, so that you're not taking it out on other people. I live with a child who's extremely defensive and reactive. And so how do I navigate that? I have to be centered. I have to be able to say, is something going on, because you're taking it out on me and I didn't do anything. I'm happy to talk to you, you know, if you want to talk it out. But that wasn't the way I acted years ago before I did this work.
Yeah, and
I-
I'll just say, it's not the words so much, but how you say it, because
Yes.
I heard your words, which could be this, but you were saying it with such warmth, I'll say, and softness and
Mhm.
care, that it
Yeah.
landed very differently.
Thank you.
I had a question, or yeah, I guess it's a question, because I've had several dates lately where I feel like it went really, really well. And I am feeling the fear coming from them about like whatever they're going through. And I think we're a good match, but I'm more evolved than them, right? So I've done so much more work on myself, and either they're just getting through a divorce, maybe a year, 2 year out. And it's almost like I want to guide them, be like, I know this is fear-based. Like I can see it, that they're not being reciprocal or following up because they're just retreating. They're retreating back because they're scared to get into another relationship, even though we had so much fun. So where do you, as we're trying to change these roles, do you help and say, hey, is this fear-based that you're pulling away, or are you really not interested?
So that's a tricky place to navigate. You don't want to turn into their therapist. And I think when we've done the work, we see things that they don't see, and we want to point it out. I mean, I'm a coach, like I see everything, and it's really hard to date me. But I used to school people. I don't school people anymore. I think what's more effective is speak your truth. And, I really like you. Be vulnerable. I really like you. And I'm sensing that, there's some distance. Is everything okay? Can we talk about it? I mean, something like that, but not like, I think you're fear-based and, maybe you should go to therapy and let's talk this out. Because all of that is true.
Right.
And most men are going to react violently to that conversation.
Yep. No, that's great. It's like only controlling what you are feeling rather than trying to figure out what they're feeling. Just
Exactly.
and be vulnerable, as Brené Brown talks about, the only
Yes.
time that you're really going to get what you want in life is being vulnerable.
Yeah. And telling him, like, this is what I'm feeling. I really like these things about you. I'm enjoying getting to know you. And I feel something's shifted a little bit, and I'm just checking in. Maybe the story I'm making up that's a Brené
Right.
Brown line, which I love. The story I'm making up is
Right.
That you're pulling away. Maybe I'm totally crazy. Like, can you tell me what's true for you? What's going on? Yeah.
Good. Thank you. That's awesome.
You're welcome. It's tricky stuff, this relationship stuff.
Any other questions, guys, while we have Sandy? We have time for one more. Go ahead, Holly.
Yeah, I'll just throw it out there. So we talked a couple minutes ago about sort of chemistry, like the line between chemistry, and that's maybe something that's, sort of more of the teens and 20s of like what drove relationships, and where does it fit in today? Because I sort of, looking at your 8, I sort of think that, my kind of challenge is, I might even add like an 8.5 to your list, is did I think about that person after I left the date? Like, did I kind of, while I'm doing dishes, did I think like, he made me think about something, or wonder what he's up to now, or what he would think about X, Y, or Z?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Linda says go for the muffler.
Go for the muffler.
Yeah, so chemistry, it's a tricky thing. I mean, and Logan, who wrote this book, she talks about her own relationship with her husband. She was attracted to men who didn't want her, the men who she had to chase. And that's a very common thing. It's the people who don't want us, we want to win them over. And the people who don't want us don't feel as needy as the ones who do. So a lot of times these men who come across, very strong, and I think you're great, and I really want to get to know you, it just feels too easy, or, it kind of reminds you of something in your past where it just feels needy and clingy. So there's this happy medium between the two. And the way Logan ended up with her husband is he was a guy she knew. and I think she had swiped left on him online because he wasn't her type. He wore his hat backwards and she thought he was this kind of dude. And it turned out that he started tutoring her at Google, where they both worked. And one day, after doing some therapy and some coaching, she realized that everything she was looking for was right here with this guy. He was consistent, he was reliable, he made her feel great, he brought out the best side of her, and their attraction grew. And to the point where right before they got married, he ended up having cancer and had to have his legs amputated. I mean, it was a horrible thing. And imagine if this relationship wasn't on solid ground, what would have happened? And so that's what we're looking for. We're looking for the foundation to be there first. And it can't be somebody who completely turns you off, but you want to be turned on, and especially over time. And sometimes it's like the sense of humor will come out all of a sudden, or because people they're sending representatives to dates. They're not really showing up as themselves right away. I mean, so many people, as we get to know them, they blossom. And other people, it's just like, okay, no, not happening.
Awesome. Thank you all. We're almost at time. I just want to let you know about what's coming up, but thank you, Sandy. I think we're going to have to regroup. Maybe we have to get a little game together or something like this with this crowd, because it seems like there's a good conversation to continue on.
I would love it.
So I'll come up with what that should be, because there are all kinds of ways you can connect with us
Okay,
on a more
perfect.
regular basis. Let me say thank you. So thank you to Sandy. Thank you for taking the time. Thanks, ladies. And then let me just tell you what's coming up.
I'm going to go. Thank you so much.
Oh, you can stay if you want until.
No, I have another client. So I'm gonna
okay,
run.
Sandy, thank you so
Okay,
much.
bye everybody.
Bye, guys.